In the heart of the American countryside, nestled deep within the Appalachian Mountains, there is a place that few know about but many fear. The village of Larkspur, once a thriving community, now stands in eerie silence, a ghost town swallowed by time and legend. Its story is one of tragedy, superstition, and an ancient curse that has haunted its land for centuries. Larkspur was founded in the early 1800s, by a group of settlers who were drawn to the area's fertile land and the promise of a quiet, prosperous life. The village quickly grew, with homes built along the banks of the Larkspur River, a winding waterway that flowed through the valley. The settlers established farms, mills, and a small trading post, and for a time, the community seemed like any other frontier town, full of life and hope for the future. But something was wrong in Larkspur from the very beginning. The river, which had once been a source of abundance for the settlers, began to behave strangely. Local legends spoke of the river's waters being alive, an unsettling phrase that seemed to carry a sinister meaning. The water never seemed to freeze, even in the coldest winters, and on certain nights, the surface would ripple and churn, as though something was moving beneath. The townspeople, initially dismissing the rumors as superstitions, soon found themselves dealing with more tangible signs that something darker was at work. The first to go missing was a young woman named Sarah Meadows. She was last seen walking along the riverbank one summer evening, carrying a basket of herbs she had picked from the nearby woods. Her family searched for days, but there was no trace of her. It was as if the earth itself had swallowed her up. As the days turned to weeks, the villagers began to whisper that Sarah had been claimed by the river, though none could explain how or why. Then, more people began to vanish, children, men, and women alike. Each disappearance was as mysterious as the last, with no clues or signs left behind. It wasn't long before the townsfolk realized they were dealing with something beyond their understanding. Rumors spread like wildfire, and fear took root in Larkspur. Some believed that the river had become cursed, that a vengeful spirit from the past was demanding sacrifices for some forgotten wrong. Others spoke of an ancient creature living beneath the water, one that fed on human souls. The more rational members of the village tried to dismiss these ideas, but they couldn't deny the mounting evidence. People were disappearing, and the village was losing its sense of safety. In the winter of 1826, things took a darker turn. The town's mill, which had been the center of Larkspur's economy, caught fire under mysterious circumstances. The flames spread quickly, engulfing the entire structure. No one had been inside when the fire broke out, but the damage was devastating. Afterward, the river's waters began to act even more strangely. Some said the fire had awoken something in the depths, a dormant evil that had been lying in wait for generations. And soon, even those who had once dismissed the legends of the cursed land began to feel a growing unease. Among the more skeptical villagers was Thomas Granger, a blacksmith by trade, who decided to investigate the origins of the river's strange behavior. Armed with little more than his knowledge of the area and a stubborn determination, Thomas set out one night to explore the river. He ventured far from the village, where the water ran faster and the land grew wilder. As he reached a bend in the river, he saw something that would haunt him for the rest of his days: a series of large, ancient stones that jutted out from the river's edge, covered in moss and dirt. They were arranged in a perfect circle, as though they had been placed there intentionally, and something about the sight sent a chill through his spine. He knelt down to examine the stones more closely, noticing faint, unfamiliar symbols carved into their surfaces. That night, Thomas returned home and began researching the area's history, hoping to uncover any information that might explain what he had seen. He soon discovered an unsettling truth. Long before the settlers had arrived in Larkspur, the land had been home to a Native American tribe, the Lenape. The tribe had disappeared mysteriously, leaving behind only whispers of their ancient beliefs. The elders had spoken of a great curse that would fall upon the land if the river's sanctity was ever disturbed. It seemed that the settlers, in their ignorance, had unknowingly desecrated a sacred site by building their mill and settling along the river's edge. Thomas shared his findings with the village elders, but they were already too far gone in their own fear. The disappearances had continued, and now the river had begun to flood its banks, reaching places it had never touched before. The villagers were desperate, and many fled in fear, leaving behind their homes and livelihoods. Those who remained tried to appease whatever force they believed was responsible, offering up prayers and sacrifices to the river, but it was clear that nothing would halt the relentless tide of misfortune. One fateful night, a group of villagers gathered near the river, intending to hold a final ceremony to appease the ancient power they believed had taken root in the land. They placed offerings on the stones: fruit, food, and even precious objects, hoping to cleanse the village of its curse. But as the ritual unfolded, something went terribly wrong. The water began to swirl and rise violently, as though the river itself was alive and angry. In the chaos that followed, several people were swept away by the raging current. The remaining villagers fled, leaving Larkspur behind, their hopes for salvation drowned in the water's fury. Over time, Larkspur was abandoned. The once thriving village became a place of legend, its buildings falling into ruin as nature reclaimed the land. The river, too, seemed to retreat into the shadows, its waters once again flowing quietly through the valley. But the memories of the village and its tragic fate remained, passed down through generations. Those who still lived nearby spoke in hushed tones about the haunted village, warning travelers to stay away. It was said that on certain nights, when the moon was full and the air was thick with mist, the whispers could still be heard, voices calling from the river, begging to be remembered. In the years since, no one has dared to return to Larkspur. The land remains untouched, as if it has been abandoned by time itself. The ruins of the village can still be seen from a distance, crumbling stone walls overtaken by ivy and weeds. The river, now calm and still, flows as it always has, though those who venture too close often feel a sense of unease, as though the land is watching them, waiting for something. The story of Larkspur serves as a grim reminder of the dangers of tampering with forces beyond human understanding. Whether it was the river's curse or something darker that claimed the village, the tragedy of Larkspur lives on in the folklore of the region. It is a place where the past and present collide, where the land itself seems to remember the horrors that took place, and where those who seek to uncover the truth may find themselves lost forever, just as the villagers of Larkspur once were.